Hey, and welcome into the Big Ten Huddle. I'm JR with Zack Guggenheim, and today we are covering Michigan's trip to Germany coming up in 2026. Rutgers gets some great recruiting news, and athletic director talk as well, talking wild card Big Ten teams and Big Ten coaches and administrators want to get rid of the preseason polls. All we ask in return is that you hit that like button, subscribe for more Big Ten content, and comment your thoughts as well on all the various topics that we discuss. Also, leave a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to. It really does help. Follow us on X, Twitter, whatever you call it, TikTok, and Instagram at the Big Ten Huddle. You can catch the Big Ten Huddle every Monday through Friday on podcast or live on YouTube at 9 p.m. on Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday nights. Subscribe to our basketball channel on YouTube and buy some Big Ten Huddle merch using the links below. Now, let's get to the man who is not going to be leaving this podcast for Colorado anytime soon. He's no Boo Guggenheim. Zack.
Is someone leaving for Colorado? Did I miss something?
You didn't hear about that?
No.
Yeah, the Tennessee player, he's like supposed to play both ways for him this year. He can play a little bit of defense, a little bit of offense. His name's Boo Carter. And apparently he might not show up to training camp because he wants to, he's been like demanding more money and like more special treatment. And if Tennessee doesn't give it to him, or I think they have given it to him, but he still doesn't know if he's going to come back or not. So he might show up at Colorado's fall camp instead. Welcome to college football, Zack.
It sounds like it's less of an EM Aliava problem and more of a Josh Heupel problem. I'm just saying.
Yeah, the whole story has kind of made me rethink if EM Aliava was the problem or if Tennessee was the problem. But Tennessee's not the one demanding this stuff. Tennessee's the one giving in, but I don't know. It's weird. They're in the SEC. We don't care. Well,
I would just say it's a problem that the way that the kids are going after it, but it points to potentially broader cultural problems.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and it's also, I mean, you don't have any rules. Like, people can transfer without the transfer portal. I don't understand why, like, the transfer portal is even really a thing anymore, because people can just drop out of school and go to another school someplace else. Like, Jake Ratliff did it. Nico Iamaleava did it. Boo Carter, if he can do it, like, it just doesn't make any sense. So Welcome to college football, where nothing makes sense, and you're lucky if you hold on to your players.
Yep. It's like the whose line punchline, where everything's made up and the points don't matter. So
yeah. Pretty much. But what's not made up is our listeners. They are here. They are awesome. We appreciate you being here. Max says, I hear football in Germany has a bunch of strange rules compared to over here. It involves a lot more punting, very little QB action. They also call end zone goals. Strange translation, I know. Less quarterback play might be a positive for Michigan over there in Germany, Zack.
I was going to say, is like more punting... Is that Germany, or is it just the fact that two teams from Michigan are going over there?
I was gonna say, if we had some Michigan Iowa action over there in Germany, they'd be college football fans right away.
Sellouts every week.
They wouldn't know who to be fans of.
Oh man,
Max, we appreciate you being here. Carice is here. I believe that's how you pronounce your name. I apologize.
Might be Charisse.
Charisse. Sorry about that if I'm wrong. If you want to correct me in the comments, please do feel free to do so. But yes, we appreciate you being here. Billy is here. Howdy, folks. 34 days indeed. We are about a month away. It's very cool, very refreshing. Philip says, "Boo, Dream Crusher is a." Is back. Yeah. Pretty much.
Philip, I don't know what I did. I feel like I am taunted every week by you now, and I don't know what's going on. But is it still because
it's a tradition now?
Well, is it because I said Bert got defeated in the wrestling thing? Is that what this is?
Oh yeah, that's 100% what it is.
It was a fake thing.
Deciding vote. You were deciding vote.
It's fair. That's fair.
I purposely said I'm going to vote first on this because I don't want to be the deciding vote. And then you just
I
were
was like,
quiet until the end, and then you became the deciding vote.
well, I wanted to amp up the drama. Like that's
Okay.
the point, right?
Okay. You took one for the team. So, all right. There we go. Everybody, we appreciate you being here. Oh, Trojan Fight is here too. I didn't think I missed anybody, but that's a long way to go to play a cupcake. Yeah, 4,000 miles over like 100 miles. We'll talk about it. We'll talk about it. Zach, anything else you want to get to with the chat before we move on?
I'll just say this. I think Trojan, you will like where I have USC. So no USC hate today. And also, like Illini fans, including Philip, I think you're gonna like where I have you guys.
Yes. So just the second part of this episode, we are going to be doing our Big Ten standings predictions. We've gone through, we've picked every single game, game by game. We did it separately, so we did it every single game by game, and we're going to reveal our predictions. We'll talk about each one, and then we'll have them right next to each other. We'll discuss, and we'll get you guys' thoughts as well. Terry's here too. Hey, Terry, thanks for being here, man. So, I will not talk about where I have USC. So, I might just make everybody mad with mine. Everybody's 0-12. Get over it.
I was in my text to JR when you told me about this was I was going 0-12. That's not
you were much kinder to Iowa than I thought you would be.
I don't think they're going to be terrible. I just slow fade. That's what I think.
Okay, fair. All right, you want to talk Michigan and Germany?
Do we have to?
Yes. Michigan is taking a trip. Their football team is going to Frankfurt, Germany in 2026 to blitz. See what I did there? Blitz, Western Michigan. Basically, the Broncos are flying 4,000 miles away to get clobbered by 50 points. So congrats, Germany. You get to see a blowout, and you get the Michigan special. But all kidding aside, let's start with the positives here, because I do think there's some positives to this, Zack. For Michigan, it does kind of makes sense, okay? They have Germans on their team. Manuel Beigel, shout out to the Michigan website for putting pronunciation guides on their website. That's huge for me, and I really appreciate it. And Marlon Klein on their roster, and I think they had another guy at one point too. I forget what his name was, but they had another guy a couple years ago as well. But he graduated, so it is a homecoming of sorts for Beigel and Klein. Plus, it's a Week 0 game, so at least we get to see a Big Ten team in the first weekend of football, and it's good scheduling as it will give them a bye before they go face Oklahoma, or Oklahoma comes to face them on September 12th. Finally, Germany is technically a developing football market, and who knows, maybe they will have more Germans on their team, and they'll have the Germans saying "Gebleu" by the end of the trip. I know that was a terrible joke. I wrote it down, but I wanted to say it. So, Zach, I initially hated this, but then I started doing more research, and I was like, okay, I don't hate this as much. Am I crazy to not hate this?
I think it's, believe it or not, it's more nuanced, because I also hated it. And then Yankee, our good friend Yankee Wolverine was like, how could you not love this? And I was like, okay, Yankee's like one of the most awesome Michigan fans I know. And like, I find that I am often like-minded with him. And he made the point, think about the experience for the players. And I thought about that point, and I was like,
I mean, it will be a good recruiting pitch, right? Like,
yeah.
While everybody else is playing games in Norman, Oklahoma, they're going to Germany. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, and like not just for Michigan, but for Western Michigan. Like,
yeah,
like all those kids get to go to Germany. It's probably before the semester starts, or the beginning of the semester. So it's not smack dab in the middle of the academic calendar, which I think is good.
Yeah, I mean, it's Week 0. I think it's August 29th was the day I looked up.
Okay, so it'll be
Week 1 is September 5th, and then Week 2 is September 12th.
So they'll get a bye next year in between that game in Oklahoma.
Yeah, which I would be totally in favor of that. I think any team that can schedule a game in Week 0 and then get a bye in Week 1, you get 3 byes then if you do that. That's fantastic.
Yeah, I still don't love it, but like if we're pro player, and we are pro player and pro student athlete on this podcast. If we're pro student athlete over everything else, then I think I'm for it. And I think in terms of opportunity, sure. Like I think all the other superlatives you could talk about, it's kind of like right? Like good recruiting, like good for international exposure, good for the student athletes, yes. Okay, I'm there. Like I can buy it from that perspective.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. I don't really have much more on it other than that. Like, it's good for the students. It can be a recruiting pitch. And they do have Germans on their team, you know. I mean, I don't know if Marlon Klein will be there next year. I don't know if this is 4th or 5th year. I need to look that up. But I know the Manuel Bagel, he's only a sophomore. So he'll be there. But, yeah. You already talked Rutgers?
Yes.
Yeah,
I love Rutgers.
Great news. Great news. Rutgers has just made a huge recruiting move to get their top 2026 commit, Wydeek Collier, to reclassify to the 2025 class. Typically, I'm not a huge fan of reclassifications, but this 4-star top 100 defensive end who recently surged in the rankings had Ohio State and Penn State rumored to be coming after him for a flip. He will indeed be joining the team for this season by signing early. Rutgers locks him in, and they lock in their highest ranked commit of the Greg Schiano 2.0 era at Rutgers, dodging another Chase Linton situation. I believe that was last year when he flipped to Georgia kind of at the last, I don't know, the last minute, but there toward the end. Collier's early arrival means he dives into Big Ten strength training this fall, fast-tracking his development. He's not expected to play much as a freshman, but he can play up to 4 games and a bowl game to still preserve his red shirt as well, gaining critical experience as well as getting him in the Rutgers strength program, which he desperately needs. He's pretty skinny. He's a little bit of a scrawny guy, but boy, does he have the measurables to be able to be a really good defensive end someday. This sets him up to be a major contributor by 2026. It's honestly perfect to have him in the fold a year behind Eric O'Neill. What was he a transfer from? James Madison, I believe, and Bradley Weaver, the Ohio transfer. So they can pair him next year with fellow 4-star Robbie Johnson. Collier is going to be a huge help to position this make or break portion of the team with the pass rush. Collier and Johnson, with their raw potential, should be a fearsome tandem to build around. Zack, I know we debated the last news a little bit, kind of, but I don't think there's much debate here, right? Like, this is a great move for Rutgers all around, and they have a new AD as well, so it's a great weekend for Rutgers.
Yeah, I think people might be like, "Oh, great, this is for this year." No, it's not. It's not for 2025. It doesn't help them.
I mean, he's a top 100 recruit, but he's a top 100 based on like raw potential. He's a very raw player.
Right. But the measurables 6'7", 215. Like, he's gonna have to grow into that frame. But I think has the likely ability to be a difference maker on that defense, which they sorely need. Like, they've had really good players that have NFL level talent, but like, he could develop into a top 2-3 round guy if he hits. And that's what Rutgers needs to start chipping away at that upper part of the Big Ten, which is where they want to go. Like, they don't want to stay, like you heard Greg Schiano at Big Ten Media Days. They don't want to stay in the middle of the pack. They're not content with that. They want to win championships. And so this is how you do it, by starting to get some of your higher profile guys, get them to buy into your strength and conditioning, your culture. By year 3, year 4, you're ready not just to compete for a spot, you're ready to be in the conversation for all Big Ten, player of the year type of stuff. So I don't know if that's where Wydeek Collier is going, but I really like that he's committed and bought in to come in early. I think that speaks to the culture too that Rutgers has built.
Yeah, I mean, I think he has a really good chance of being a starter or at least a regular contributor next year. I think that's one of the plans with getting him in there as early as they can. The strength and conditioning program, everything else. Like I said, he can play 4 games this year. If they go to a bowl game, he has the opportunity to play in a bowl game as well. I mean, overall, in this world of college football, like with so much transfer and everything else, you do wonder, like, okay, you bring him in for a year, you get him built up, and then he just transfers. There is that aspect to it, but I just we don't see that from Greg Schiano and
No.
Rutgers very much. He builds a really strong culture over there. I mean, Urban Meyer was singing his praise last week on the Triple Option podcast. If you don't listen to that, it's a really good podcast. They have a bunch of different guests on and everything. Brett Bielema was on there. The Oklahoma general manager guy was on there, so they have a lot of really good stuff over there. But anyway, he was singing Greg Schiano's praises, and just reminds you how good of a coach Greg Schiano was at Ohio State and how much he is now. Sometimes he gets a little overlooked because he goes 6-6 or 7-5 at Rutgers, and it's like, no, that's that's really good. Like, this is a really difficult Big Ten, and Rutgers doesn't have the funding or the NIL of other teams for Greg Schiano to be able to recruit as well as he does. I believe they were top 30 last class, and then also to be able to get to a bowl game regularly. It's phenomenal. It just shows how great of a coach Greg Schiano is.
Yep. Agreed.
So, all right, let's move on to, you want to talk some wild cards, Zach?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, let's talk some wild cards. Okay, who are the Big Ten wild cards or the Big Ten wild card for 2025? Last episode, Philip in the chat asked which teams essentially have the largest range of possible record outcomes. Well, we did a floor ceiling episode, and in that we had Nebraska, UCLA, Maryland, and USC with a possible 6-game swing. A lot of potential, but also a lot of risks. Minnesota, Northwestern, and Michigan trailed closely with a 5-game swing between their floor and their ceiling. But I want to start here with the Wolverines at Michigan, Zach. Okay, Sharon Moore's Wolverines. They're kind of in a puzzle, and he didn't really want to, express any concern about it. Not that you would at Big Ten Media Days, but there are rumors about a possible suspension for Moore, at least 2 games by the university, possibly more by the NCAA, and that could mean more games for Moore, which could shake things up, in my opinion, because unlike a couple years ago, Jim Harbaugh's 6-game suspension in 2023, when they had a seasoned staff, the future head coach was on the staff, a third-year playing quarterback in J.J. McCarthy, it won't be easy to keep things steady. Now, with Moore in his second year, a true freshman, albeit phenom, but still a true freshman, and Bryce Underwood possibly starting, and some concern with the offensive line's pass protection, the Wolverines have more questions than they did back then. I think that's pretty obvious. If Underwood clicks, the defense holds, and they win at Oklahoma and Nebraska early, this is looking like a team that probably sets up for 10 wins at least. But if Moore's sidelined and the offense stumbles, you looking at worst case scenario. I'm not predicting it's going to happen, but you're looking at a 6-6 possible season isn't out of the question. But I doubt it'll happen. I doubt they're going to be that bad or anything. The schedule is manageable, or favorable, whatever word you want to say. So, Zach, your thoughts on Michigan, the wild card? Do you think it's one of the other teams that I mentioned? Do you think it's Michigan that is more the wild card? What are your thoughts?
Well, I think Michigan certainly is a wild card because of the uncertainty you speak of, right? Like, you've got the coaching questions, you've got a freshman quarterback, there's still other questions, right? Like, I think we're still curious about the offensive line. They made some strides a year ago, but I wouldn't say that I am super excited about their prospects. I think they could be really good. I think, Sharon Moore wants to run the ball. He's a proven offensive line guy, but they weren't as good as we've come to expect Michigan offensive lines to be. So I think those reasons, and as much as we sang the defensive line's praises against Alabama a year ago, that second string performance, which was dynamic, can they do that week in and week out? I think that's a question. So I don't think you're out of line to say that Michigan is the biggest wild card. To me, I'll be honest, I think the two to me that are most intriguing and I think could swing the most and I think would make the most sense is USC and Washington. Because I think the pieces are there both for USC and Washington to really take major strides, right? I think in our floor and ceiling, we said we could see USC all the way at 11-1. We could see Washington at 10-2. But I think Washington, there's questions about the offensive line and, quite honestly, Jed Fish's coaching ability. And then I think with USC, we like Maava. We like what that team could be, but will it all gel together? And they don't have an easy schedule by any means. And so I think you can really see, USC could be like last year where they were in it and with a lot of games, but just fell short. And I think Washington, you could see similar things where when they go on the road, they kind of blow some games they shouldn't, but are fantastic at home. So I think there's a lot there though. Washington and USC has top end talent that I think make things interesting. They're both potential playoff teams, and they both could miss a bowl.
Yeah, I think the key for USC, because I agree with you on them, I think the key for them is they need to start and get momentum, right? I think that they're going to win their first 4 games, even though they go on the road to Purdue. I mean, I'm sorry, Purdue fans. You're really going to hate me in the next segment, but it's okay. I think USC starts 4-0 most likely. Then they get that game at Illinois. If they win that game, I don't think they will. Full disclosure, but just the travel and everything else. I think Illinois is probably going to win that one. But Illinois is coming off a road game to Indiana that's going to be very big, very emotional. So you never know. There could be some what's the word for it, like drawback or whatever there. So realistically, USC could start 5-0. If they start 5-0, I feel much better about this team. But then if you don't have momentum there, if you go 4-1, then you're looking at a different slate, in my opinion. Because after that, you get Michigan, and then at Notre Dame, and then you get a bye week, and then at Nebraska, Northwestern, Iowa, at Oregon, UCLA. It's not a murderous schedule, but there is definitely a point in there where it gets a little hazy and you don't know exactly what's going to happen. For me, if it's not Michigan, man, it's Nebraska. Okay, Nebraska has the schedule in the Big Ten this year. It is the schedule that everybody wants. It is the schedule that everybody needs. Okay. But this is also a team in Nebraska that every single year, sorry, Nebraska fans, I think you would agree with me on this, though, every single year tends to underperform. Even last year, they went 6-6, but the way that year started and everything else, like you thought that team was going to win 7, 8, maybe even 9 games. And then they fall off and they only win 6 games, 7 overall because they win their bowl game. I don't know. Like, it's the schedule, it's the nature of this Nebraska team. I tend to think upward for Nebraska, but overall, like, it's just Nebraska's just a wild card altogether. Even if they had a hard schedule, I don't know. It just feels like Nebraska's a wild card altogether.
Yeah, I totally agree. Totally agree. I hated trying to pick wins and losses for them because every time I did, I was like, they should win this game. Crap.
Or if they get into a close game, what's going to happen? I mean,
right.
And again, their fans know, like, it's been maddening for them. But yeah, another team we had in here was UCLA. Zach, our floor for UCLA was 2-10. Jeez, we're mean. Our ceiling for them.
It's not mean. It's reality.
Yeah. Our ceiling for them is 8-4. I feel like a lot of this stems on the out of conference. Utah at UNLV, New Mexico. If they come out of that 1-2, you're looking at 2-10, 3-9 type of season. But if they come out of that 3-0, you're looking at 7-5, 8-4 most likely, in my opinion. But don't call me crazy here, but I know home against Utah, you don't really have the travel advantage though there. And then Dan Mullen at UNLV, I don't think that's a cupcake win. I think Dan Mullen's going to have those guys playing hard and playing well, and they're going to have some really interesting offense to deal with there.
Yeah, the reason why I didn't say UCLA in in my first couple teams is that I can see a path for 8-4. I think the likelihood of them getting 6 wins or more is pretty bleak, if I'm just honest. Like, even the easier games are away. So, like, I don't love at Northwestern. Like, I think that's a loss for UCLA. Like, I don't love at Michigan State. Certainly don't love at Ohio State or USC. Those aren't easy games, obviously. And then they get Nebraska at home, but I don't love that for them either. Like I just
Well, they
don't
get Washington
love.
at home too, but I
Yeah,
don't love that either.
yeah. Like their home games are harder games, and some of their away games would be their easier games. And I'm like, I don't love any. Like honestly, I don't think UCLA's schedule. It's not last year's schedule, but it's not great.
Right. Well, and we would be hypocrites here if we didn't bring up. I mean, we just brought up the Sharon Moore stuff with Michigan. We'd be hypocrites if we didn't bring up Nico Iamaleava, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
look, I want Nico to be great. Like you said, we're a player friendly show. I want Nico to be great. I want Nico to make his money and for him to have the players around him, for him to be close to his family, all the stuff that's been said. I want all of that, but I don't trust it. Sorry, like I don't trust that Nico is going to get through the entire season as the quarterback for UCLA. Maybe I'm wrong. I probably am going to be wrong. I wouldn't say that I'm leaning towards that's going to happen, but I also see the possibility of it going to happen, and it concerns me.
yeah. Chris Wilds, friend of the show, said Washington does not historically play well at UCLA. Fair point. I
Washington
think
doesn't
just to
historically play well outside of, I guess not historically. Last season they didn't
Seattle.
play well outside of home. So yeah.
I will say that, and this is maybe less about shade with Nico and more just the reality of the situation. He just got there in what, May, June? Like
Which
there's
concerns me even more for the Utah and UNLV games.
yeah, like that. I don't think people realize how big of a deal it is. Like people are concerned about Julian Sayin and Bryce Underwood and their first couple starts. Well, guess what? Like they've at least had a season to get the offense under their belt, or for Bryce, a semester. Nico's had nothing. He will have had fall camp and the summer where he can't technically is not supposed to be around coaches. Like,
Yeah, they're always around coaches.
yeah, I mean, I get
It's
that.
not just UCLA; it's everybody.
But
Like I
they
say,
can't.
it's always everybody.
But they can't have structured formal practice. There's only so much you can do in the summer. If we're concerned about Julian Sayin, if we're concerned about Bryce Underwood, who by all accounts are maybe better talents. Nico's really, really good. I'm not trying to say that he's not good, but we're talking about a kid who's arriving in May, being handed a playbook and say, hey, figure this out in fall camp, and then go out and play a pretty darn good Utah team who underachieved a year ago because they got decimated with injuries. That Utah team's going to be good this year.
Yeah, yeah. Dylan says, "Watch out for the ultimate wild card, the Boilers. The Boilers, baby."
I'm sorry, DK. I'm sorry.
Hey, we had Purdue had a ceiling of 6-6. All right.
I'm sorry.
Nobody can say that we're haters. Okay.
I think people will say we're haters.
I had Dylan on the show. Okay. You tell me another Big Ten podcast out there that had a Purdue fan on the show. Okay.
I had Dylan on Big Ten Football Talk before we went away.
Well, that's why you joined this show, because
exactly.
It's awesome.
We're still gonna get called haters.
Yeah, it happens. Okay. Before we move on, real quick, if you had to decide your one wild card team, I'm gonna go with Michigan. UCLA is a close second for me. Both of the uncertainties make me feel like they're kind of the wild card teams. If I had to pick a team without an uncertainty, I'd pick Nebraska. So I guess that's my top three. Who's your team?
Yeah, I'd probably say Washington and USC.
Well, pick one.
I will go Washington.
Okay.
I'm very intrigued.
The road game thing is intriguing.
Yeah. Because if their road games are actually not that difficult this year, which I'm not saying that means they're definitely going to win, but they're not like they get to host most of their toughest games.
Yeah. All right. Big one here. Okay. Zach, preseason polls are a sham, and Big Ten coaches at Media Days in Las Vegas, as Adam Rittenberg tweeted, want them gone. Thank you. Somebody finally said it. And I know the Big Ten said a lot of stuff that's going around like crazy. People think it's crazy. I don't agree with all of it. Just put it out there for what's said. but they're absolutely right on this one. Preseason polls like the AP poll, and I'll even take it a further step, preseason ratings and metrics like ESPN FBI and SP Plus are guesswork dressed as gospel, right? They're skewing strength of schedule metrics and warping college football debates. These rankings built on hype, not evidence, overvalue or undervalue teams before a single snap is even taken. It's not just an anti-SEC thing, okay? I'm going to give you some examples. It's been happening for decades. Let's go all the way back to 1984. Zach, all right? You were just a wee little lad back then. 1984.
I was not born.
I was not born. Yeah, you were so wee. For example, BYU beat a number 3 Pitt team that finished 1-7-1, and they were early ranked in their win over BYU schedule, or BYU inflated it, helping them snag a huge boost there, right? Preseason darlings like Utah and Arizona flopped, while unheralded Arizona State won the conference last year, but struggled for respect due to low preseason expectations. And they almost beat Texas. They almost took down Texas. The problems are that the preseason rankings skew our view of the teams before the season even begins, and even more importantly, they feed into strength of schedule calculations which don't fully adjust as the season unfolds. All right, unlike basketball's net, which ditches preseason metrics mid-season, they are completely done with preseason metrics by mid-season. Football's strength of schedule metrics cling to it for most of the season, and for some, they never get rid of it. They never take it out of the equation. In terms of strength of schedule, teams ranked 20th to 35th are often just totally interchangeable. If you look at the numbers, there's not really that much of a difference. Yet beating a number 25 team pads your strength of schedule more than beating a number 40 team, despite little difference. Tom Fornelli actually talked about this. He nailed it on the Cover 3 podcast. The gap between the 25th and the 75th strength of schedule is often just like one game. Right? Say, a 7-5 team versus a 5-7 team. Is there really that big of a difference? Not usually. And it's the same thing for schedules that are ranked 1 through 25 as well. It's negligible. But fans and playoff committees treat it like it's scripture, like it's the Bible, and the college football playoffs wisely waits until November to rank them. But even then, they have been influenced by the rankings. They've been influenced all year by the lean toward the strength of schedule, tainted by preseason bias. In fact, just get rid of the AP Top 25 anyway, right? It's useless. Zach, we don't need the AP Top 25 rankings to do anything for us. All they do is they put little numbers next to team names on the TV. It's literally all they do, and people treat it like it's the most important thing out there. Zach, your thoughts on the Big Ten wanting to obliterate preseason rankings?
I just want to applaud you for
thank you.
Your speech, your delivery there. It was.
I try.
I mean, someone might say that it was gaslighting, though.
Me?
Yeah. So, Stuart Mandel was like,
Stewie.
This is Project
He's going to do a Twitter poll on me, Zach.
Planet Gaslight.
Did you hear that at the Big Ten Media Day? When he said to Tony Petitti, I did a Twitter poll. You dummy. I'm sorry. I don't want to call, people. I typically say that people's actions are dummy or moronic. I don't typically call them a dummy. Stuart Mandel's not a dummy. He's obviously an intelligent person. He has a very good career. But that was one of the stupidest things you could possibly say in a question at a media, right? Like, if I would have said that, if I would have brought up a Twitter poll to Tony Petitti, my butt would have been out the door. They would have kicked me out. But Stuart Mandel says it. It's like, okay. He knows what he's talking about, I guess. That is the stupidest thing I ever heard. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. Yes, just stop gaslighting everybody, JR, with facts. No,
hey, that's a compliment, James. Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to clip that, put it on Twitter or TikTok or something.
The reality is the reason why we're talking about this, or why the Big Ten coaches are talking about this, why Tony Petitti is talking about this,
and administrators too. It's
and
not
administrators,
just the coaches.
Like they're talking about it because what has been the talking point on the other side that they're responding to, which is the SEC is trying to make the point that they want more subjectivity because they know all the subjective measures, aka preseason polls, are going to slant in their favor. And so all the Big Ten is doing is saying, you're being subjective. Let's be objective. That's why they want automatic qualifiers. That's why they want to equalize scheduling. That's why they want an even playing field. And you want to know why they want an even playing field? Because they know they hold more money, they have more TV markets, and they're going to win in the long run because they've played chess while everybody else plays checkers. Okay? So this is the reality of this, is that the Big Ten, they're just making good arguments. And yes, that includes the preseason poll going away, because all the preseason poll does is it tells us who media people think are going to be the top 5 teams. Remember when they thought Florida State was a top 10 team a year ago? Like, they were awful.
And there are some strength of schedule metrics that still had them a top 10 team by the end of the season. They were 2-10, Zach. And there were strength of schedule metrics out there that said, well, people played them when they were number 10 team in the nation. Like, what? Are you crazy?
Yeah.
They don't
a
adjust.
Train wreck. They were a train wreck.
It's mind-boggling, man.
Yeah, they weren't even here's the thing. They weren't even a competitive 2-10 team. Like, right. It'd be one thing if they were
Cal, and that was it.
Yeah. And that's the issue with the preseason poll is I understand why a preseason poll does matter. And people will argue about this. And I think there's merit to it, that a preseason poll, it allows you to evaluate. It does help you. It helps you.
I got no problem
understand
with
that.
I got no problem with like individual people doing preseason polls, right? Like here's my top 25 teams that I think are out there, right? If somebody in the media wants to do that. But to get all the media together and be like, all right, let's get the AP top 25 together, and we're going to put it on TV and make it.
They're the worst people. They're the worst people to do it because they're biased for their region typically and their team, and B, they don't know ball like coaches do, like analysts do, and that it's just. I think the whole system is flawed. And the thing that we have been like, we on our program, but also I think what we've been longing for across college sports is objectivity. Like, we need objectivity. That's the key, which we're getting more and more of with the playoff system. But we have to keep fighting for that, because otherwise we are going to continue to think, well, Alabama's just better. Why? Because that's not a good reason. It's never been a good reason. But finally, people are saying that can't be the reason why someone gets in the playoff.
Yeah, precisely. Billy says, great points, JR, but none of that is going away. No, you're completely right. I mean, that's the thing. Like, we can make all the points in the world and we can make great points, but they're not getting rid of it. It drives up ratings. It helps with, clicks and everything else. So they're not getting rid of it, unfortunately. But, and I think that's probably why the Big Ten wasn't up on stage vying for it, is because they knew, like, this isn't going away. The other stuff they knew had a chance, right? Talking about scheduling, talking about playing games and stuff like that. But the other stuff, yeah. And DK is paying my swear jar for me for saying dummy. Thank you, DK. I couldn't afford the swear jar tonight, so I appreciate you doing that. So,
wow.
All right. So I just like. The Big Ten said a lot of stuff at Big Ten Media Days, and it took a lot of people by storm. Obviously, Kirk Cinetti said what he said about, we're just going to adopt SEC strength of scheduling. It is so mind-boggling to me how people can't count. It is so crazy that Kirk Cinetti talks about, well, we're only going to play 3 group of 5 teams in the out-of-conference, and be like, well, it's such a weak schedule because you don't play an out-of-conference P5 teams. No, we're playing 9 just like everybody in the SEC is, because the SEC has 8 conference games and they do a good job. Most of them, I think all of them. I think there's maybe only 1 or 2 teams that plays 4 G5 teams this year. But they do a good job of playing an out of conference team that's a P5, P4 or better. But even then, the SEC and the Big Ten are not regularly playing out of conference schedules. So you're getting a SEC team playing typically like a lower level ACC team. Last year, Tennessee played NC State. Ole Miss played Wake Forest. Is that really all that much different than Tulane? No, it's not. It's not. And so you working that into it as well. But the preseason poll thing, it would fix so much bias. It would fix so many issues because even though people want to say, oh, the College Football Playoff Committee doesn't rank until week, 10? They're still influenced the entire time. Look at the very first college football playoff rankings compared to the AP poll that comes out at that time. It's nearly identical every single time. Yep. There's they might have a few teams off here and there, but it's their guide, and all they do is they go through and I think this team might be a couple spots higher.
Yep,
that's all it is. So, oh man, all right, Zach, any more on preseason polls before we move on to the next segment?
I'll just finish with this. I think it's out of line the way that, and I already mentioned his name, but I think it's out of line in general for the way that some of these media personalities are trying to villainize some of these administrators. I mean, Kurt Cignetti is getting a lot of garbage, and granted, he's probably not the one that should have spoke with him backing out of the Virginia series, but for him to get crushed the way he is right now for saying what he said about the SEC, and then you look at the Indiana schedule, and everybody will laugh at the first 3 games. They got to play Illinois, at Iowa, at Oregon, at Penn State, Wisconsin, Michigan State. Those are all probably at least bowl teams. And you're talking about Penn State, who went to the playoff a year ago. You're talking about Oregon, who was the number 1 team in the country for most of last year. You're talking about Illinois, who we think is going to be a Big Ten contender. We're talking about Iowa, who is always kind of lurking around. We're crushing him for backing out of Virginia so he can get a home game. But he's got 4 or 5 legit teams on that schedule. Last year was an aberration. It's just absurd to me. And Cignetti sometimes speaks out of pocket, and I think it's the way he said we just beat top 25 teams. That was a point where he needed to shut up because they don't. But this was not I don't understand why he's getting just crushed for what he said about the SEC when he has a legit hard schedule this year.
Yeah, I think it's strength of schedule 50th or something like that. But you go look at his schedule compared to, like I said, the 25th schedule in the nation, it's not all that much different. He plays 2 huge, contenders in the conference. He plays 2 other teams that are kind of on the brink of contention, but you would probably say are second or third tier. And then you have some other teams in there as well, 1 or 2 that are, I wouldn't say cupcakes, but a little bit easier. And then you have a team like Wisconsin where you watch, you watch this season. If Wisconsin goes 6-6, they will never be talked about the way that Florida was last year. Florida was 6-6 last year, and people wanted to throw them a championship parade and said they deserve to be a top 20 team in college football. Absolutely ridiculous kind of stuff, right? But that schedule was so difficult, and don't get me wrong, it was difficult, but that schedule was so difficult that if you're 6-6, you're a top 25 team. No, you're not a top 25 team if you're 6-6. And you best believe if Wisconsin goes 6-6 this year, I'll be vying for the same thing. I'll be saying, oh yeah, Wisconsin, that's a top 25 team. And people will say, oh no, they're Wisconsin, they suck. Yeah. It's no.
You're going to say it again.
No, it's not true. So, yeah. Philip with a good comment here. He said back end of the rankings are established to push up the SEC. And it's true. I mean, you might see 1 or 2 Big Ten teams there at the back end of the rankings, but guess what? They play an extra conference game. Right? So a lot of these back end of the conference teams that are Big Ten teams are 4-2 or 4-3 because they've typically played a powerhouse in the conference by then. And the SEC teams are 5-2, 6-1. And they're like, oh yeah, this SEC team 5-2, even though they played 4 G5 teams or 3 G5 team in a Wake Forest. Yeah, they're a really good team. We better put them in the top 20. Yeah, it's completely right, Philip. All right. Glad we're all on the same page. All right.
Yep.
Zach, good episode here. Everybody, we are going to end the podcast portion of the episode here. We are going to continue on YouTube. So if you're on YouTube, please don't go anywhere. We appreciate you being here. However, if you are on the podcast, we are going to say adios at this point, and this is the time when Zach and I are going to start our next portion, which is the Big Ten predictions for 2025. So podcast listeners, adios. Thanks for being here. YouTube listeners, stick with us. We're going to do the next part here right now. Hey, welcome into the Big Ten Huddle. I'm your host, JR, and today I'm with Zack Guggenheim to give our Big Ten 2025 standing predictions. That's right, media days are over, the media poll is out, and Zach and I are going to give our thoughts and our record predictions for every single Big Ten team. We've gone through, we've done it game by game. We're not just saying like, USC 9-3, Purdue 4-8. We're not doing that, all right? We're going game by game, looking at every single team. Who's going to win what game? We'll give you analysis on our thoughts with where we have everybody at. Zach and I will then debate a few different teams that we have in different spots, and at the end we will answer any of your questions and stuff like that in the chat. So if you like this type of content, please do like, subscribe, helps us out a whole lot. If you're on podcast, give us a 5-star review. Follow us on Twitter /X, TikTok, Instagram, all those good things. I'll now bring in the guy who is very confident in his Big Ten predictions, but he was not nearly as low on Iowa as I thought he would be. Zack Guggenheim, what, are you in love with Iowa now? What's the deal?
I have been saying that I think it's a slow fade because as Kirk Ferentz and as Phil Parker get older, they might enjoy the shuffleboard life more rather than be coaching. I just think the game's passing them by a little bit. That's not to say that they're terrible. I don't think they're going to get better.
Wow. All right. Heavy hitting analysis from there, Zach. Zach, we appreciate you coming on and giving your thoughts on Iowa, even if the Iowa fans are going to try to rake you over the coals after this. But
I don't know.
They won't too much.
I don't know if they will. Honestly,
what team do you think will hate you most after you give your predictions?
Well, I think I'm going to make Dylan very sad, and I feel very bad about that. And
Sorry, Dylan.
I'm trying to think who I think will be the most upset. Probably a combination of UCLA and Maryland.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. You were really too down on any certain Actually, no, I know the team that will hate you after this. It's the team that I thought would hate me after this, but then you had them 2 losses lower than me. You know who I'm talking about?
You talking about Michigan?
Yeah. Yeah, Michigan fans are going to hate you after this one.
Well, they're not going to hate me for my last game.
Yeah, that's true. Anyway, all right, you want to talk about it?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, I'll give mine first, and then we'll let Zach do his. All right, so here are my Big Ten predictions. So we're trying to put this in the middle here. I don't know if it exactly works, but we're going with it. I feel like it's a little bit more stylish, but
you should move your
half face over there.
You should. Oh, is it like that? Oh, okay. Yeah. It's weird on mine. Like when I look at it on my screen, now I'm blocked. But okay, yeah, I don't understand.
Yeah. Oh well. All right. Let's see. So my predictions of the Big Ten. This will take a minute because I'm going to go through each one. But I have Ohio State first in the conference at 11-1 overall, 8-1 in the conference with their elite roster, likely to defeat Texas. In my opinion, I would just say likely. I lean toward Ohio State beating Texas, but like I said, I'm not going to pick them to beat them until they actually do it. I have them stumbling against Michigan, and then I do think that week 5 through 8 stretch with 3 road games is going to be very, very difficult. Illinois, Wisconsin, Washington there. I don't have them losing to any of them, but I could definitely see it happening. Penn State follows closely at 11-1, 8-1 in the conference with their trenches neutralizing Oregon for a key win early on in the year, though I do think Ohio State's home field edge proves too much, and they should handle the tough test at Iowa, and they should handle Indiana, but we'll see. I mean, Indiana could surprise We shouldn't say surprise. They're not going to surprise anything anymore. Oregon, I have 11-1, 8-1. Powerhouse. Don't see them dropping 2 games. I've seen some people have them 2 or 3 losses. I mean, I have them losing to Penn State, and then Indiana, Iowa, or Washington. They can certainly lose one of those. Some of you can pull an upset there, though the road test at Indiana, I think, would have been flipped, in my opinion, if Indiana was playing at home. Illinois, 10-2, 7-2, second straight double-digit win season, with wins over Indiana and USC, but losses to Ohio State and at Washington, securing a playoff berth, in my opinion. I have Michigan at 9-3, 7-2. I have them starting 2-2 with early losses to Oklahoma and Nebraska. Then they beat USC, or no, they fall to USC's Lincoln Riley. He gets revenge, but an upset over Ohio State puts them in the playoffs, in my opinion. Indiana at 9-3, 6-3 drops the games to Penn State, Oregon, and a tight one to Illinois, though they could steal a win against Penn State, landing them somewhere between 9 and 11 wins, in my opinion. Iowa at 8-4, 5-4 in the conference, faces a tough home slate against Oregon, Penn State, and Indiana. All losses in my book. That's where I have them right now, plus a defeat to one of their rivals, either Nebraska, Wisconsin, or Minnesota. But they could definitely upset 1 or 2 for a 7-5 to 9-3 range, in my opinion. Minnesota, I also have it 8-4, 5-4 in the conference, exceeds their 6-5 win total on FanDuel, leaning to a strong run game despite concerns about Drake Lindsey. Some people have. I don't have them because I feel good about the run game. Darius Taylor, A.J. Turner, Cam Davis, those guys, in my opinion, are going to be good. Nebraska, I also have 8-4, 5-4, improves with losses to Penn State, Iowa, Minnesota, and a sneaky Maryland upset. I know that's my hot take here. Though stronger than expected run game or a win over USC at home could push them to 9-3. I have USC, sorry USC fans, at 7-5, 5-4. They beat Michigan, but struggle on tough road trips. I think this is the hardest part about USC's schedule. Nebraska, Notre Dame, Oregon, and Illinois all on the road, with their only home loss to Iowa. A 9-win ceiling is reachable. I shouldn't say ceiling. 9 wins is reachable, but with better play on the road. They'll have to play well on the road. Washington, I have it 8-4, 5-4, gets screwed by the tiebreaker, falling to Ohio State. Michigan, Wisconsin, and Oregon, though a road win at Wisconsin feels like a defining moment, or a road win for Wisconsin feels like a defining moment for Luke Fickell's squad, and a 10-2 record could land them in the playoffs if they're able to get 2 more wins than what I have them projected here. Wisconsin is my hot take at 6-6, 4-5. Reach a bowl game. I have them losing to Ohio State, Oregon, Alabama, and Michigan, a couple others, but upsetting Washington and winning one of their rivalry games against either Iowa or Minnesota. Fueled by Fickell's culture and talent, that's where I have them at. Michigan State at 5-7, missing a bowl, 2-7 in the conference. I think they start 3-0, but they fade against Indiana, Michigan, Minnesota, and Penn State. Missing a bowl. The hot seat is heating up for Jonathan Smith's seat. Northwestern, I have it 4-8, 2-7 in the conference. Struggles with early losses to Tulane and Oregon, hampered by pass protection and secondary issues against exciting teams like Nebraska, Illinois, USC, and Penn State, potentially leading to a Zack Lujan mid-season exit. Rutgers also, predict that. Rutgers also 5-7, 2-7, faces a brutal schedule with Iowa, Minnesota, Washington, Oregon, Illinois, Ohio State, and Penn State, making their record look worse than I think their efforts would indicate, but that's where I have them at, just barely missing a bowl game. UCLA at 3-9, 1-8, gets crushed by a tough out-of-conference. I shouldn't say it's super tough, but just a bad start, right? Utah, UNLV, road games at Northwestern and Michigan State. Maryland at 4-8, 1-8. I think they start 3-0, right? We know Mike Locksley to do that, but they falter on the road against Michigan State, UCLA, Rutgers, and Wisconsin, though a 5th win could save Mike Locksley if they're able to get one. And then finally, Purdue at 2-10, 0-9. This is my toughest call. All right, new players, transfers, disrupt chemistry. And despite Barry Odom, I think Barry Odom's a good coach. I think he has potential, but the roster turnover and everything else, I just don't know if I can confidently pick anything better than that. Like Purdue, sure, if all the transfers hit and everything looks great, yeah, they could get to a bowl game, I guess, but I don't feel great about it. All right, Indiana fans hate me at this point. I picked Illinois to beat them. Zach, you can do yours and see if you have any more luck.
I can't believe that you picked Illinois over Indiana. Wow. I thought you're the biggest Indiana homer out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh man. Um so I feel like I'm going to regret a lot of this, but this is my thoughts for now. I have Penn State as the sole team in first place with one loss to Ohio State, because I just don't think they're going to get that Ohio State monkey off their back this season. I just don't think they're built for it. Second place, or I have a huge tie for second place, but the tiebreaker goes to Illinois, who I have at 10-2, 7-2 in the conference, with losses at Indiana and at Washington. I think those are two. I think Indiana is an interesting game for them. I actually wonder if Indiana is built to maybe exploit some things with Illinois. Just, I think their playmakers could be tough. And then I think the road game at Washington is pretty tough. The third place team, they get the next tiebreaker is Oregon. Oregon, I did give a second loss at Washington. You'll see a trend here with Washington. Fourth place, still in a tie for second, is USC at 9-3. I have them starting 4-1 before they lose at Illinois. They pick up a win at home against Michigan before falling to Notre Dame out of conference. And then they win every single game the rest of the way except at Oregon at Autzen Stadium. Also tied for second is Ohio State, 10-2. I do have them beating Texas in the opener. I think that's a toss-up game, quite honestly. But I have them edging out Texas because they have the two best players in college football. It's at home. And I have them winning all the way up to Illinois, where I think Illinois gets the upset. I've been saying it since early summer. I think that Illinois gets Ohio State. And then I'm just not going to pick Ohio State to beat Michigan until they prove otherwise. So those are my two losses for Ohio State. This is the one that I'm like, I can't believe I did this, but I'll explain it in a minute. I have Nebraska finishing out my 5-way tie for second. I don't like this.
That was such a crazy sentence. I have Nebraska finishing out my 5-way tie. Just crazy sentence.
I don't like it, but I look at the schedule and I'm like, they get Michigan at home, and then they have a bye. And like, you just look at the next 4 games: home Michigan State, at Maryland, at Minnesota, home against Northwestern. Like, Minnesota's the toughest game in that stretch. And I'm like, I don't know if I like Minnesota to go on the road and beat them, especially when they're in their own 4-game stretch. I just don't love that. They do play USC at home, but I think USC's got a little too much juice, and USC's coming off a bye. Nebraska is playing their 5th straight game. So I just think Nebraska drops one there. And then they go on the road to Penn State. I don't think they beat Penn State. But man, it's really hard to look at some of these individual games and think, oh, they definitely are going to lose that game. They're the one I just don't think. I don't like that. But in this exercise, they're 10-2. Now I've in sole possession of 7th place, I have Indiana. Indiana, I have beating Illinois at home, but then losing the next week at Iowa. Then I think they lose to Oregon on the road, and they lose to Penn State, but they win everything else. I have Washington 8-4, 5-4 in the conference. And really, I have them losing to Ohio State at home and then losing on the road against Michigan, against Wisconsin. And I had another loss in there. Are you sure that that's not supposed to be 9-3 for Washington?
From what I looked at, I'll double check, but go ahead, keep going.
Yeah, let me go back and look. I wonder if I made a mistake on my thing. Did I sent you the website? Let me look it up here.
I got it right here. You have
Where's my 4th loss for them?
Oh no, you had them 9-3.
Aha!
Yeah.
Yes.
Sorry, I got that wrong.
So I have them 9 and
fix
3.
It. Sorry, I'll fix it.
Yeah.
Go ahead, keep going. I'll fix it. You had Michigan 8 and 4 too.
Yeah,
so.
Michigan. I have Michigan 8 and 4, which is where Michigan fans are not going to like me for that. I just think their road slate is hard, and so I actually have I have a couple of upsets. At Nebraska, I think might be a mild upset. I have them losing to Michigan State, which I know Michigan is going to hate me for, but I'll explain that in a minute. I just don't love it. And here's my thing though. I think Michigan is going to struggle in the early and mid parts of the season, but they're going to finish strong. I think they'll get things going. No more suspensions for Moore. No more, I think growing pains for Underwood will be over. I think they upset Ohio State in the last game and they finish 8 and 4. I think this is I have Northwestern at, I screwed something up with Northwestern, I think, because I don't think I wanted them at 7 and 5.
Yeah, you had them at 7 and 5 on here. I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah. I think, let me look at Northwestern here. No. All right. Why is this not working? I'm sorry, guys. Let me look at this here. Where did I have them?
Yeah, you have Northwestern 7 and 5 and 4 and 5. You have them beating Tulane, Western Illinois, UCLA, UL Monroe, Purdue, Michigan, and Minnesota.
I don't.
And then they lose to Illinois, USC, Nebraska, Penn State, and Oregon.
This is what I did. Michigan's supposed to be 9 and 3 too.
Okay. So
sorry, I totally botched that. I'm sorry about that. I was gonna say, I was like, this is not what my papers. See, if we stuck to pen and paper, be doing this so much better. That's my
pen
issue.
And paper doesn't automatically do the
that's
the
fair.
tiebreakers.
Okay,
so the list of tiebreakers in the Big Ten is like forever long.
Yeah. Well, and so that actually shifts things. So Oregon would get the tiebreaker over Illinois at that point. Anyway, so let's go back here. I have Washington at 9 and 3, Michigan at 9 and 3, Indiana at 9 and 3, Iowa at 7 and 5. There we go. I think it's all fixed now. Iowa at 7 and 5. I have them starting 5 and 0. I think they get traditionally they have been better on the road against Iowa State. So I think they start 5 and 0, but then they just have a tough slate after that. At Wisconsin, loss. Penn State at home, I think that's a loss. Oregon at home, I think that's a loss. At USC, that's a loss. And I think Nebraska's a toss-up. I think Nebraska finally gets them at home. And then I think Minnesota, I have 7 and 5 as well. I think they start 4 and 0, and then again, it's tough. At Ohio State, they play Nebraska at home. I think that's a loss. At Iowa, I have as a loss. At Oregon, and I have Northwestern upsetting Minnesota on the lake. So I have them at 7 and 5. I have Wisconsin 5 and 7, 3 and 6 in conference. I just don't see them beating Alabama. I do think they get a couple of wins that you don't expect. Washington at home, Iowa at home. But I think the last 2 segments of their schedule are just brutal. I have them losing Michigan, Ohio State, Oregon, and then losing Indiana, Illinois, and Minnesota to finish 5 and 7. Michigan State, I think, is a bit of a sleeper. I have them at 6 and 6, 3 and 6 in the conference. That I think is also wrong. I think I screwed something up with Michigan State. Hold on. I see what I did there. Nope, I do have 6 and 6. So I have 6 and 6 for them. 3 wins to start the season, and then I think they lose to USC, they lose to Nebraska, lose to Indiana and Minnesota, but I think they trade wins with UCLA, and then I think they do get an upset somewhere, and I have them upsetting Michigan, which I think will be crazy. But I just think Jonathan Smith seemed more confident than I expected him to be at Big Ten Media Days. And I like them to get an upset somewhere. And I just thought the rivalry game made sense. Inconsistency for Michigan. I think Michigan State gets them there. Northwestern, I think, goes 6-6. I just think the pattern for them is they have a bad year, then they have a good year. I believe in that coaching staff. I do think they get a win against Tulane. I think that's going to be a tougher game than people expect, but I think they get that win on the road. I like them beating Western Illinois. Obviously lose to Oregon, but then they get wins against UCLA, UL Monroe, Purdue, and then I have them beating Minnesota, but then losing to everyone else. And then the last several teams are kind of it's just tough. Rutgers, I think we probably have the same schedule, right? Get 3 wins, and then it's going to be a fight the rest of the way. I have them getting wins against Purdue and Maryland. UCLA, I have them getting 1 win in conference, and that's it. I believe that's Maryland that I have them beating. I have them beating Maryland at home. Purdue and Maryland, I have them winless in the conference, and I think it's just gonna be rough for both those teams. You're muted.
Sorry, I muted myself because I'm finishing the stuff over here to make sure we have it right. All right, so why don't you do the chat for a second? Just go through if anybody has any questions or if they had anything while I finish this up really fast.
Well, I'll just say for one, Billy, I'm not drinking. I'm not. I just don't know how to operate technology. That's
good old pen and paper. If you don't have that. All right. I am checking the records really fast, and then I'll be good to go. So just do a few more.
Yeah. So Cleveland Mike, who is OSU losing to? I think we both have them losing to Michigan, and I have them losing to Illinois as well. Yes. Let's see. Mike, friend of the show, says Nebraska at 10-2 is the craziest pick on either board. 10-2, their best record the last 8 years is 6-6. I don't disagree with you. I will pick apart my own pick. I just encourage for anyone who feels that way, which I did, just go through the schedule on a one-off basis and think, okay, who do I think is the better team, and who has more coming back? That I think that's the problem, but I think that's been the problem with Nebraska for the past several years. So I'm with you. I don't like my pick there. I really don't. But I'd also Nebraska has the easiest schedule maybe in the conference this year. Or at least it is one of the more favorable.
I think it is the easiest, personally.
Yeah.
Most favorable. That's what I try to say.
Yeah. So.
All right, do one more. I'm loading it up, and then I'll be ready.
Yeah. Chris Wilds, you like Wisconsin over Iowa. I know it's at home, but you're between Michigan and Ohio State. It's in the midst of a tough 4-game stretch. I get that. I just don't love Iowa traveling to Wisconsin on a bye. Like, I just don't. I think Wisconsin's going to be desperate. Like, I think they're going to be really desperate. So, Dave Valensky, thank you for the 10. Appreciate that. The super chat. Minnesota is playing Northwestern at Wrigley. I know a lot of Minnesota fans that are going to that game at Northwestern. Northwestern hasn't won at Wrigley Field yet. I did not realize they were playing at Wrigley. That might actually change my thought there.
Illinois and Ohio State at Wrigley last year.
Yeah, I did not realize that was a Wrigley game. That might change my pick there.
Okay. All right. I got it set up now. So, all right, we're good to go. Yep. Okay. What else is that all Dave said?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I mean, that is like an interesting aspect to it, right? Because any home game for Northwestern at Wrigley isn't really like a home game.
No, it's actually a neutral site experience for the visiting team.
Yeah, I mean, and it's like it's such a interesting atmosphere that like so many road fans want to go to it. So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's weird. All right. So here we go, next to each other. As you can see, next to each other, like we honestly have some pretty close records, but because of the tiebreakers, like I feel like that's almost like the biggest thing here is just how crazy the tiebreakers are. Because you have USC going 9-3 and 7-2. But they're all the way up in fourth for yours. I have them going 7-5, 5-4, and they're all the way down to 10th in the bottom half of the Big Ten for me. I think
Mm-hmm.
I think for me, like the biggest thing was for USC was I don't love the road slate for USC. I feel
Yeah.
like it's going to be really, really tough for them to go. Like when I first went through and did USC, I was there with you. I was at like 9-3 with them. And then when I started thinking through some of the road games, like at Illinois, at Nebraska, those were two games where I'm like, okay, like USC has a very good chance of winning this game. Nebraska's travel isn't nearly as bad as Illinois, or isn't as bad as nearly as bad as going to Illinois. But that's a tough trip to go all the way over to Illinois. Illinois is a grinded out team. They're going to play you close the entire time. I feel like Illinois, and maybe I'm banking on the wrong thing here, but they're so good at coming out with with those games at the end of the game where they need to be clutch, and they have Luke
Mm-hmm.
Altmaier who's a gamer. I just feel like they're going to do so much of that this
Yeah.
season, and it's going to propel them forward to get them into the playoffs.
Yeah.
But that's also a reason that many people are picking them to go like 7-5 is because they're like, oh, they just got lucky with, close games the past couple years. I feel like at a
Yeah.
certain point, it's not luck. You do it enough, it's not luck. You're just really good in close games.
Yeah. There is less of a margin for error for Illinois. I just to your USC point, the one thing that is a little bit of a saving grace is that particularly before Nebraska, you have a bye. So you have time to like get right after Notre Dame. Um, and their road game against Oregon, like it's on the same coast. So and they have back-to-back home games. I'm not picking them to beat Oregon, but
Mm-hmm.
I have them losing 3 and they're all on the road. But like I think some of their swing games, like Michigan at home, they get Michigan after Michigan plays Wisconsin at home.
Mm-hmm.
And like they have a bye. So like they have time to get right. And I like Wisconsin at 5-7 doesn't sound like a good team. I think they're gonna get back to beating teams up though a little bit. And I don't again, I just think I don't know. I don't think that I think USC might benefit from some of the time off and some of those differences there. So but I can see again, we talked about it. I think they're one of my biggest wild cards where I think they could go 6-6, even 5-7, because the schedule is like I think you can get upset by Michigan State. Heck, who knows what's going to happen at Ross 8 at night?
If it was at Michigan State, I'd be with you. But the fact that they're coming over, I think what I learned last year is travel is real. The travel is
travel
real.
is very real.
And that has to be considered every time one of these teams goes out and plays somebody out west. Yep. Yes, Ross 8 is real, but I would feel better about that if it was later on in the season. For Purdue, I don't know, because if early on, like I feel like Purdue's still going to be finding themselves with the transfers and everything else. I feel like if Purdue gets wins, it's going to come later in the season because you look at Purdue. Oh, well, that's the hard part. Like they face good teams at the end of the season. You look at after their first bye week, so they have USC and Notre Dame bye week. Then they have Illinois, Minnesota, Northwestern, Rutgers, Michigan, Ohio State, Washington, Indiana. I mean, you have chances there against Northwestern, but that's on the road. You get a home game against Rutgers. Like you play Washington, like maybe, but that's at Washington. Like Purdue's not going to go to Washington and take care of that. And then we saw what Cignetti did to Purdue last year, so I don't know why. I think anything different.
Purdue's in a lot of trouble this year.
Yeah.
And I think they know that. And I think this is all about I think the biggest thing for Purdue is how many games do you guys play tough and show improvement?
Yeah.
Because you Barry Odom's got to prove.
Well, and
to
how
the
do you grow
world.
throughout the year too,
Yeah.
right? Like how do you sustain that growth? How do you have it, and how do you play well against other teams? Because
Yeah, they have to show the rest of the world that they can be a functional football team.
yeah. Let's go to Minnesota. We both have Minnesota 8-4, I believe.
I have them
No, you
7-5.
have them 7-5. Okay. But really around that range, we both have them going over the win total. I actually have Minnesota losing to Wisconsin. I feel like it's going to be the flip this year. Where Wisconsin's going to be vying for that bowl game, and they're going to play really hard for Luke Fickell at the end of the year. I know it's at Minnesota. Don't come at me, Minnesota fans. But I also think Minnesota gets some big wins this season. I think they take care of business against Cal. I think they beat Nebraska, which is going to be huge for them. I think they have a chance to beat Iowa here. I did not select them to beat Iowa, but I don't think that's out of the question for that to happen. And then the Wisconsin game. I mean, if Minnesota wins that Wisconsin game and I'm just totally wrong and Wisconsin gives up on Luke Fickell by the end of the year, you're looking at a Minnesota team that could be 9-3, 8-4, and that's really, really impressive if they're able to do that this season.
Yeah. I just find it hard. I don't know how I feel about who their playmakers are. And I like Drake Lindsay is probably the guy.
He is. He was at Media Days. He's the guy.
Yeah, like he's the guy, but is he the guy? Like, is he gonna be like Max Brosmer? Is he gonna be able to carry that? And I just don't. I have questions about who they go to outside of Darius Taylor, right? Like everybody knows Darius Taylor's a stud, but is this offensive line going to be as good as a year ago? My one counter to your Wisconsin take, I trust PJ Fleck way more than Luke Fickell right now.
Yeah, I definitely trust PJ Fleck more too, but I don't know. It's a rivalry game, right? And it's honestly one of the best rivalries. I keep saying that word wrong. Rivalries in all of college football. People want to put other rivalries up there. Some rivalries that aren't even going to be playing anymore here soon. To me, this is one of the longest standing rivalries in all of college football. Minnesota, Wisconsin. It's the Axe. It's one of the best ones there is, and that was one of the reasons why it was so disappointing last year because it didn't feel like Wisconsin wanted to be there in some cases, and I don't think I'm coming at Wisconsin here. I think Wisconsin fans would agree with me. That was disappointing last year.
Mm-hmm.
If Luke Fickell wants to keep this job, he has to get his guys playing even at the end of the season. You got a bowl game on the line. I get it. That was tough with losing Phil Longo and stuff last year, but still, like you got to play hard. You still got to play for your guys. So, any other teams on here that you want to look at, Zach?
Should we have an Indiana conversation?
I mean, we both have him 9-3. Like, we answered the question the other day. I think his name was AJ. Yeah, AJ's right there too. To me, it just all stems on those 4 games, right? What are you going to do in those 4 games? I'm confident Indiana's going to beat everybody else. What do you do in those 4 games? It's home against Illinois, at Iowa, at Oregon, at Penn State. Like I said in the thing, if they got Oregon at home, I would probably flip my pick on that. If Indiana got Oregon at home, I would pick Indiana to win that game. But they don't, and that's the hard part, right? That's where the schedule is just not in their favor. And I get it. They're like a 51st strength of schedule, but you look at these top-tier games that they're going to be playing, it does come down to how good is Iowa, right? Who is Mark Gronowski? Is he the guy that we think he is? Is Iowa's receivers going to be able to get separation on them? Is Illinois going to be able is Illinois going to be able to keep the game close, right? Because Illinois plays that kind of brand of football where you kind of want to slow them down a little bit and really work them. Indiana, they don't care to go out there and just try to blitz you and put points on you. If Indiana goes into that game against Illinois and they start blitzing Illinois, I don't know if Illinois can win in a shootout. Actually, I'm not going to say I don't know. I don't think Illinois can win in a shootout with Indiana if their offense is as high-powered as it was last year. But the biggest thing is that game is so early. It's the first test for Fernando Mendoza, right? Is Fernando Mendoza going to be the guy by then? It's just Illinois has the experience. Illinois has the dudes that have been coming back. And so those early matchups, I feel better about Illinois.
Yeah. You know who I really feel good about is Blue Wolverine. And gifting 20 Big Ten Huddle football memberships. Blue Wolverine, you are the man. Thank you so much.
Wolverine. Thank you for doing that. We appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
If you manage to get a membership from Blue Wolverine, that's awesome. Thank Blue Wolverine for that. Good dude. Good dude. Thanks, Blue Wolverine.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts on Indiana?
Here
we go. Here we go. I can say my German now. Geble. Right? Or French. That's probably French, actually. Now that I think about it, I think I'm speaking French. So.
Are you? I should know this. I'm going there in the fall. I'm going.
Well, ask him when you get there. Ask him when you get there.
I'll say, how do
you say this?
How do you say this swear word? Go blue. That just sounds.
I just did, Philip. You don't like my accent? I just did.
Go blue.
All right, what were you gonna say on Indiana?
Yeah, I think the thing that's hard is, AJ was talking about the roster and how people are sleeping on it. That's the thing. I don't think we are. I think we are actually.
I definitely think there are other people that are sleeping on the
roster.
Though.
Yes.
There are definitely other people that are.
Yeah. But I think if I could just gently push back, I think we're saying the roster's really good. And yet you have to understand it's not Oregon, Ohio State, Penn State. Like it just isn't. Like I know you guys are really high on your receiving core. It's not, it's a top 3 receiving core. It's not the best in the conference. And it's probably not the second best in the conference. Like I know you love your quarterback. And I know you love your offensive line. There's a reason why Zen Mikulski was shipped out of Ohio State. Like you need to be there. There's context with this. So but that's not to say that I think the roster is bad. I just think you have to worry about depth, which I think the depth is better, but it's not the same high end as the top teams in the conference. And because of that, you're going to run into trouble because this schedule is harder. It is much harder than a year ago. And so you can't just grind, you can't just blow everybody out until you get to Michigan and Ohio State. Like that's not what this is going to be. You're getting hit hard, Illinois at Iowa. You're getting hit hard after that. At Oregon's going to be tough. At Penn State's going to be tough. Wisconsin's going to be tougher than you want. Like it's just, you're dealing with big boy offensive lines and defensive lines.
Yeah. I mean, they faced good defensive lines last year too. Nebraska was a good defensive line and they handled them. I get Ohio State fans aren't going to like this and that's fine. They didn't like it when I said it last year either, but like guys, Indiana was only down 7 points at halftime. That defense was absolutely demolishing Indiana, and Ohio State still only had a lead of 14-7. And one of those scores was off a missed snap, or not even a missed snap. I think the punter just dropped the ball, right? So you had special teams errors for Indiana, which really caused their issues. Obviously, Caleb Downs took the one back too. And Indiana outrushed Ohio State in that game as well. So, like, I get the line of scrimmage things that everybody wants to bring up, but also Ohio State just went an entire season with Josh Fryer at right tackle. I don't think your right tackle is nearly as important as your left tackle, right? Obviously, in the Big Ten, you got some really good pass rushers on both sides, but for the most part, you can help out your right tackle well enough. You shouldn't have to help out your left tackle. That's when you have a problem. You have to help them both out. But if you're able to just leave your left tackle out there, and Carter Smith is a really, really good left tackle. Like, he should be getting consideration for one of the best left tackles in all of college football, but he doesn't because of the way things happen at Ohio State last year. And I get Notre Dame was tough too, right? But Curtis Rourke was also playing on a torn ACL. What does this team look like with a healthy Fernando Mendoza? What does this team look like with guys who are coming back playing for Bob Bostad, right? Again for another year. Like the amount of returners on this team, people are not giving near enough credit for. So I'm not picking Oregon and Penn State to beat Indiana because it's like, oh yeah, they can't beat the big guys. I'm picking them because they're away. That Oregon trip is terrible, right? Mm-hmm. Penn State, they might get Penn State, but Penn State's also going to have a huge environment for them because guess what? That's what Signetti brings. I love Signetti, and I think Signetti does a whole lot of good for Indiana. But when you play Signetti in your place, you want to make sure he hears you, right? So to me, it's got nothing to do with like roster's not good enough or anything like that. To me, it's the unfortunate part of having to go to Oregon. It's the unfortunate part of having to go to Penn State. And the unfortunate part of just playing Illinois early when they're a super experienced team. So,
yeah,
I love Indiana's roster. I think Indiana's got all Big Ten caliber players all over the place. But
if I can push it, I like their roster.
Oh, I love it.
I
what
like
don't you
it.
like?
It's similar to, I think, actually how I feel about Illinois, which I'm going to get. And remember, I picked Illinois to beat Ohio State, so take this with a grain of salt. But there is a certain way that Illinois has to win. And I would argue that.
Yeah, but Michigan was the same way, and they won a national championship.
Well, yeah. But I'm just saying there are limitations, right? And I think with Indiana, there are a few limitations compared to the elite programs in the conference. So that would be my one pushback. So I think, that's me being sober-minded. But that being said, I do like this team a lot. I think anybody that says that Indiana is going to fade back into obscurity is wrong. But I think at the same time, there's a reason why both of us have 9-3.
Yeah, I mean, and like I said in my thing, I'm taking the low end here, right? I said Indiana 9-11 wins, somewhere in there. I took the low end. I put them at 9-3. It would not shock me at all if they win 11 games.
Yeah. To explain context, the Illini want me to pick against them every game because every time I pick against them, they win.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, because I have
Illini Bubba's getting at.
Yeah. So unfortunately for them, I have them at 10-2 and making the Big Ten championship game. So this could be a problem for the Illini at least.
Dave says Illinois has the weakest schedule.
No,
it's either Illinois or Nebraska.
Really? You think they have a weak schedule?
Illinois? I wouldn't say it's weak, but it's favorable. I mean, at Duke, yeah. I mean, that's one of the better ACC teams. At Indiana, yeah, that's hard. USC at home, yeah. USC at home, like, don't get me wrong. I think USC is going to have a good team this year. I like Jaden Maava, but it's just travel, right? Like that is so tough to be able to get over. And USC was in so many close games last year. Illinois was able to get in close games. They were able to win and out. So I like that matchup there. Purdue, I like that matchup there. Ohio State, Washington, I think those are both difficult games there, especially at Washington. But then the final four games, like Rutgers, Maryland, at Wisconsin, Northwestern. Not trying to be disrespectful to those teams, but I think Illinois wins all four of those games.
No, you're right. You're right. Duke is more tricky than I think people are giving credit for. But
and also, I mean, if you look at the travel rankings that I put out there, like Illinois travels the least amount out of anybody in the Big Ten. Now it's 1 mile less than Purdue. Purdue is the next lowest at 1 mile more. But Illinois travels the least amount. And I think that means something. That's another reason why I picked Ohio State to win the conference this year is because Ohio State has the fourth least. They have the second hardest schedule according to ESPN FBI strength of schedule. Take that for what it's worth. But they have the second hardest schedule in the Big Ten. But they have the fourth lowest travel amount. Outside of Washington, they really don't travel all that far. I don't think they have a single game over 500 miles they travel, except for Washington. Yeah, because Illinois, Wisconsin, Purdue, Michigan, none of those are over 500 miles.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Can we, before we get out of here, can we talk week 1, Ohio State, Texas a little bit? I know we'll talk about it more in a few weeks, but I was listening to, do you mind if we talk about it?
Yeah, that's fine. Go ahead.
So I was listening to Kings of the North, which I love that show. It's great. It's a great show that also covers the Big Ten and all Northern football. If you don't listen to it, go and listen to it. It's great. Doug Lesmerises, Bill Landis, those guys are great. They both have Texas winning, and most of their rationale is they like the continuity of the staff, and they like Arch Manning having at least some experience over Ohio State's lack of continuity in the coaching staff with Brian Hartline, with Matt Patricia.
Why is staff continuity important?
That was going to be my questions. So I feel like as they were talking, I'm like, I respect, out of any media people, they're the ones I respect the most. Like, I think they actually do the work. They do a great job of having their own thoughts and opinions. They don't follow groupthink, which I really appreciate. But I think as I was listening to the talk, I'm like, I think there are pathways for Texas to win. Like, I think they're uber talented. I think they're really good. I do think Arch Manning's going to be really good. But I just felt like a lot of the rationale for why Texas was going to win was like, I mean, but Ohio State has the best two players in college football, and it's at home. And I know home football home games have not always been a big predictor of success for Ohio State. But I think they're going to be pretty amped for the first game of the season. I don't care that it's Big Noon. I think they're going to care that it's Texas. I think they're going to care that they get to see Jeremiah Smith play again. Like, I think they're going to be loud.
Well, I mean, you go to pretty much anybody that played Ohio State last year. I mean, the Michigan players don't say it, but I wouldn't say it if I was the Michigan players either. But pretty much everybody gave Ohio State props for, being loud and having, fans that made it difficult to hear in that place. Nobody's saying that it's the loudest they've ever been, but they definitely talk about how impactful it is. So, yeah, I think very first game of the year against Texas, you're going to get that. To me, that's one of the biggest factors here is the home field advantage. I think home field advantage is bigger than staff continuity, personally. And I think people are just completely glossing over that. Listen, Ohio State went into Texas last year. That's where the playoff game was, in Texas. Yeah. And they won that game against Texas, right? Now, Arch Manning could be better than Quinn Ewers this year. First game, though? I mean, yeah, maybe. Like, he started a couple games. He's played in a few games, but it's not been any – Mississippi State. And who was the other one? Like UL Monroe. Sorry, that doesn't cut it for playing against Ohio State at all. And Arch Manning is essentially a brand new starter, in my opinion. Yes, he's been there a year longer than Julian Sayin, but I have a feeling that Julian Sayin knows the offense pretty well too if he knows that he's going to be the guy. And as far as I'm concerned, yes, it's going to hurt Ohio State to not have staff continuity. You know what else hurts Texas? They don't know what defense Ohio State is running, right? Yep. They don't know exactly what kind of offense Brian Hartline is running. I mean, they know they're going to air it out, but this is not going to be the RPO offense of Chip Kelly. Brian Hartline is not going to put that together. This is going to be the Ryan Day offense, but it's going to have Brian Hartline's stamp on it. So, I mean, I get the staff continuity stuff too, but as far as I'm concerned, Texas doesn't know what to plan for with Matt Patricia and Brian Hartline. They can go off last year, but you really think a guy like Matt Patricia is going to come into Ohio State and say, yeah, I'm going to do what this, his entire career college defensive coordinator is going to do? No. Matt Patricia won multiple Super Bowls at New England. And you can say it's Bill Belichick, but you best believe he's bringing that Bill Belichick defense with him.
Yeah. Billy made a good point here. Texas has questions on the offensive line, OSU on the D line. I would argue, especially early in the season, I think that advantage goes to Ohio State because Texas is bringing back one starter. I think Ohio State's front line could be one of the best in the country. Now, their depth is what concerns me, but
interior depth.
Yeah, interior depth in particular. But I think you're talking about an offensive line that is that has one starter back. They lost a first rounder. They lost another one that was, I think they had 2 or 3 guys drafted off that line. They've recruited really well on the offensive line. So it's not to say that they won't have guys, but I think Ohio State's defensive line is primed to have a good performance in this game. And you've seen more out of them, I think. Edric Houston, Obviously, getting Bo Atkinson out of the portal was huge. Caden McDonald, and then Caden Curry and Kenyatta Jackson. Like those guys, they've been there a while. They have a lot of reps under their belt. They did lose 4 starters, but it's not like those guys didn't play. They've played meaningful minutes and they've been impactful. So I think that edge goes to Ohio State.
Certainly early on. Yeah. I mean, if it was later on in the season, Texas might, just depending on how they play, they might have the edge. But early on in the season at Ohio State, I mean,
yeah.
What if Texas comes in and pulls what, I don't want to say pulls what Indiana pulls because it sounds like Indiana did that. But what if what happened to Texas happens to, or what if what happened to Indiana happens to Texas, right? What if Texas comes in there, their center is not nearly as sharp as he needs to be, they can't hear each other, they're not working together as a unit, and Ohio State's able to just blitz and get to Arch Manning, 4 or 5 times during the game and put pressure on him all game long, you know? How comfortable is a new starting quarterback going to be on that? All right, I sound like a big homer right now, okay? I'm not like sitting here like 95% Ohio State wins, all right? The reason I'm pushing back on it so much is because everybody I hear talking is like, oh, yeah, Texas is going to win this game. Texas has all of this. Texas has all of that. Yeah, Texas has a lot on defense coming back. That's great.
Yeah.
Right? But Texas also has a lot of new players on offense. They have a new quarterback. They have they got rid of they didn't get rid of Matthew Golden went to the NFL. Like they have a whole new offensive line for the most part. Like there's a lot on the offense with Texas that I just don't feel super confident. And then on top of that, Ohio State's gonna have Matt Patricia running not an entirely new defense because you can't switch over an entire defense that quick, but a very much so new defense for Ohio State that Texas is going to have to adjust to and get to. I still think it's going to be a very close one, and I'm probably 55% Ohio State, 45% Texas, but this whole idea that like, oh yeah, Texas is going to for sure win and everybody picks Texas, I just don't get it.
Well, and I think the reasons why people are saying it, that's what doesn't make sense to me. Like Arch Manning has more experience, barely.
Yeah. He starts against Mississippi State and UL Monroe. Like,
how many meaningful snaps has he taken? Like he took 1 in the Ohio State game. He took a few against Georgia, I think. But other than that, like he has not been given the lion's share against anybody remotely good. And I think for people, like I get that people think he's the heir apparent to like the next great quarterback. But I just, and maybe he goes out and he drops 300 yards passing and runs for 75 and leads them to a win in Columbus. I think that's on the table. But I think if that's what you're projecting for his first start against a legitimate title contender, I just think that's a bit off. There's pathways for Texas to win this game. I like Ohio State, especially early in the season. I think their pathway to victory. Here's one other thing that you didn't mention. A lot of their defense is coming back. You know who's not coming back? Jahdae Barron and Makuba. They're starting safety.
Yeah, they got Taffy back, but not the other one. Yeah.
Yeah, and Muhammad was a liability in coverage last year, their other corner. So I'm like, man, now you have to go against maybe the best tight end in the country and Max Clare, and you've got Jeremiah Smith, and you've got Brandon Ennis, and you've got Carnell Tate and Mylan Graham and all these weapons. And then on the other side with wide receivers, they didn't just lose Matthew Golden. They lost Isaiah Bond. They lost Silas Bolden. Like those are legitimate playmakers. Trey Wingo needs to become a complete receiver to really be a threat. Like he's a gadget guy. He was more of a gadget guy a year ago than a complete receiver.
Right, Ryan Wingo, you mean?
Yes, Ryan Wingo, not Trey Wingo. Yeah, Trey Wingo's an former ESPN analyst. My bad.
I was like, I don't think he's wearing the Texas helmet.
Yeah, my bad. Not Trey. You're not Trey. You knew what I meant.
Yeah. Zach, did you watch the Texas Mississippi State game?
I think I've seen clips where the throws that Arch made were not awe-inspiring.
Yeah. He had the big throw that was like the 50-yard pass at the end of the second quarter, but that game with a minute left in the second quarter was 7-6. Like, I mean, Texas obviously eventually pulled ahead, but even for pretty much the entire third quarter, it was 14-6. Arch scored on a 1-yard run to end it. So, by no means am I saying that Arch won't be good. Obviously, Arch is going to be good. Okay, he doesn't get all the hype, and he doesn't get all that stuff to make it seem like he's going to be bad or whatever. But I mean, if you struggle for the first 3 quarters against Mississippi State at home, I mean,
not good.
I'm not saying he's going to be bad at Ohio State. Just as it doesn't inspire all the confidence in me in the world. So
there's a reason why Ohio State's a favorite.
Yeah, they should be. But nobody's picking them, which is crazy to me.
Yeah.
So I was expecting some like half and half. Like, some people would pick Texas, some people would pick Ohio State. You get a lot of podcast conversations of the two and going to each other, but yeah.
You know who's gonna pick Ohio State?
Who?
Lee Corso.
Oh yeah, he will pick Ohio State.
Yeah.
If he doesn't, that would be sad.
It'd be hilarious if he didn't, and then Ohio State won by like 50.
That's the other thing too. Like I was getting ready to write this the other day, but like, who's to say Ohio State doesn't come out and just like do what they did to Tennessee, to Texas? Like, obviously Texas's defense is better, but all it takes is 1 or 2 plays of Jeremiah Smith,
Well, I think with the receivers, anything's possible. I think Tennessee's roster was a lot worse than Texas's.
Well, yeah, no, for sure. But what I'm saying is Ohio State last year slowed it down so much.
Yeah.
What if they just say screw it, go out there and play, go out there and hit him in the mouth right away, I don't know. I don't know if it's gonna be the slow kind of pace stuff like we saw last year for Ohio State. I think we're going to see more of what we saw in the playoffs, at least the first game of the year. I don't know if we'll see it all year, but
yeah.
So, all right, that's all I got. Anything else from you?
No, this is good.
Okay. All right. Good discussion. Those are our Big Ten stating predictions. We appreciate everybody being here. Spoiler alert, Zach and I will not be totally right in our, Big Ten predictions.
How dare you? Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, nobody will be totally right. The season's going to come soon, and it's going to be crazy, and it's going to be fun. But we're about 30 days away at this point. Yeah. It's almost here. It's very fun, very cool, and I can't wait.
There's just one last question. Hooligan, friend of the show, didn't Lee retire for good? His last game is Ohio State, Texas.
Which I think his first game he did was at Ohio State. So that was... Actually, I don't know if it's been announced they're going to Ohio State yet, are they?
Yes.
Oh, they did announce that?
Yeah, okay. A lot of Florida State people were mad. And it's like, you guys sucked last year. Of course they weren't going there.
Yeah. What'd Dave say? Dave said... damn the SEC bias. Sorry, I'm not going to say the whole thing there. Damn the SEC bias. Yeah, exactly. It is infiltrating our Big Ten. Dave, can you believe it? Terrible. Terrible. Philip says, who's more wrong? You know what? I will leave that to you guys to say.
Now, they're going to say I was more wrong. Philip is always going to say I'm more wrong.
Well, why do you think I had him say it?
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah. All right. Billy says, see you guys. Line Eye Bubba says, great show. Thanks, everybody, for being here. We appreciate it. We'll come back Tuesday night, 9 p.m. We'll have podcasts and everything Wednesday morning. So thanks for being here, everybody. Have a good one.